A damaged ship crashes into Meridian Station inside, the last living heir to a fallen alien throne, hunted for 50 years, barely clinging to life. Tae-min Lee, a human negotiator who's made enemies across 3 star systems with nothing but contracts and a smile, does the unthinkable. He carries her out of an exploding vessel and claims attorney-client privilege before security can take her away. Her name is Lyra. Her bloodline threatens an entire government, and everyone who protects her dies. But Tae-min isn't afraid of powerful enemies. He's built a career destroying them with paperwork. 1 week, 1 abandoned outpost, 1 impossible legal strategy to end 50 years of assassination attempts. He's falling for her. She's falling for him. And the consortium's representatives just agreed to meet. 3 Aetherians who've spent half a century erasing her existence now sit across from Tae-min in a negotiation chamber. He has 1 shot to save her life, 1 contract to rewrite history. But as the consortium's military officer leans forward with murder in his eyes, 1 question burns. Can words truly stop a government that only understands death? Tae-min adjusted his collar as he stepped into the negotiation chamber aboard the galactic trade station Meridian. 3 years had passed since humanity discovered they weren't alone in the universe, and 2 years since the galaxy learned to fear Earth's legal profession. What started as a joke, primitive humans bringing their contract disputes to civilized space, had become legend. 17 species now refused to negotiate without a human mediator present, not because they wanted one, but because they feared the other side would bring one first. The chamber was circular, designed for the Vortex who preferred spherical spaces. Tae-min hated it. Everything felt like it was closing in, and the artificial gravity shifted slightly toward the walls. But this was his 9th cross-species trade dispute this month, and he'd learned to adapt. His client, a Mescaline trade consortium, sat on specialized cushions that accommodated their 4 legs and twin torsos. Across from them, the opposing council, another human, thankfully, which meant this would-be civil represented a mining collective from the outer bands. Shall we begin? Tae-min said in perfect galactic common, though he barely needed to. The translation matrix embedded in the station handled 30,000 languages simultaneously. He opened his datapad and smiled his best courtroom smile, the one that had earned him the nickname, the smile that costs millions in 3 different star systems. The negotiations took 6 hours. When they ended, both parties were satisfied, which meant Tae-min had done his job perfectly. He'd learned early that in galactic trade, making everyone equally happy was worth more than making one side completely victorious. Repeat business was everything. He was packing his materials when the station's emergency lights began flashing violet, the universal color for distress in neutral zones. His personal com crackled. All station personnel, we have a situation in Docking Bay 7. Unregistered vessel, non-responsive crew, possible hostile action. Tae-min wasn't station personnel, but he was close to Bay 7. Old instincts from his brief service in Earth's diplomatic corps kicked in. He moved toward the bay, not running, but walking with purpose. Others fled in the opposite direction. When he arrived, station security was already forming a perimeter. Through the transparent aluminum viewport, he could see a small craft, barely larger than a shuttle, listing badly with hull breaches venting atmosphere. Anyone aboard? He asked a security officer, a Granthian whose scales were shifting to danger red. Scanners show 1 life sign, fading, but the ship's automated defenses are still active. We try to approach, it fires. We fire back, we kill whoever's inside. Tae-min studied the vessel. It was clearly not military, despite the defenses. The design was elegant, almost artistic, with flowing lines that suggested speed and grace. "Let me try something," he said. "I'm a negotiator. If there's anyone conscious in there, Maybe we can talk them down. The Grantian's scales flickered skeptically, but he gestured permission. Taemin approached the communication panel and opened a channel. This is Taemin Lee, registered human attorney and mediator. You're safe now. Your ship is damaged. We want to help. Please respond. Silence. Then, crackling through heavy interference, a voice, young, female, speaking a language the translation matrix stuttered over before finding matches. Help. Trap. They're coming. Can't let them find. The transmission died. Through the viewport, Taemin saw another flash as the ship's hull breached further. Whoever was inside had minutes at most. I'm going in, he said. You'll be fired upon, the Grantian warned. Then I'll duck. Taemin grabbed an emergency pressure suit from the bay's equipment locker and sealed himself in. The security team looked at him like he was insane, which he probably was. But he'd learned something important in his years negotiating across the stars. Sometimes the best deals were made when you showed you were willing to risk something real. He cycled through the airlock into the docking bay proper, then approached the damaged vessel on foot. Its automated defenses tracked him but didn't fire. Maybe it recognized he was alone and unarmed. Maybe it was malfunctioning. Maybe he was about to die. He reached the emergency hatch and activated the manual override. The mechanisms ground reluctantly, but they worked. The hatch opened. Inside, the ship was a disaster. Systems sparked and smoked. Emergency lighting cast everything in a sickly red. And there, strapped into the pilot's seat, was her. She wasn't human. That much was obvious. Her skin had a faint luminescent quality, pale blue-white like starlight on snow. Her features were delicate, almost ethereal, with eyes too large and too dark to be earthborn. She was wearing what might have been formal clothing once, now torn and stained with something that might have been blood or might have been something else entirely. She looked young, though Taemin knew better than to judge age across species lines. She was also unconscious and barely breathing. Taemin's emergency medical training was limited, but he knew enough. He checked for major injuries, found several, and applied emergency sealant to the worst of them. Then he released her restraints and lifted her. She was lighter than she looked, almost impossibly light. He carried her toward the hatch. That's when the ship's computer spoke, its voice feminine and eerily calm. Warning! Self-destruct sequence initiated. Detonation in 90 seconds. Of course there is, Taemin muttered. He ran. The security team had the airlock ready. He dove through with his unconscious passenger, just as the countdown hit 0. The explosion was contained by the station's blast shields, but the shockwave still hit hard enough to knock everyone in the bay off their feet. When Taemin recovered, he was lying on his back with the alien girl sprawled across him, her strange luminescent skin almost glowing in the station's harsh lighting. Her eyes opened. They were the darkest things Taemin had ever seen, like looking into deep space itself. For a moment they stared at each other, her eyes full of confusion and fear, is probably showing the adrenaline crash he was experiencing. Then she spoke, her voice weak but clear. You saved me. The translation matrix had figured out her language. She was speaking something old, something the databanks tagged as Itheran, a nearly extinct civilization from the core worlds. The girl tried to sit up, winced, and Taemin helped her. Easy, he said. You're hurt. We need to get you to medical. No. Her hand gripped his arm with surprising strength. No medical. No records. They'll find me. Who will find you? Her eyes darted around the bay, taking in the security personnel, the blast-scarred viewport, the remains of her ship. Everyone, she whispered. Then she collapsed again, this time into true unconsciousness. The Grantian security chief approached. We need to take her for processing. Unknown species, destroyed ship, possible criminal activity. Taemin stood, placing himself between them and the girl. She's under my protection as an attorney-client privilege case. She hasn't retained you. She spoke to me first when arriving at this station. Under Galactic Code subsection 447B, that establishes preliminary representation pending formal documentation. Taemin was making that up well, half making it up. The code existed but didn't quite mean what he was claiming. But he said it with such confidence that the Grantian scales flickered uncertain yellow. I'll need to verify that with station legal. Please do. In the meantime, I'll be taking my client to private medical care. Taemin lifted the girl again, grateful for the station's lighter gravity. Send the bills to my firm. I assume we're done here? He walked away before anyone could argue, carrying the mysterious girl toward the civilian medical wing. Behind him, he heard the security chief grumbling about humans and their damn contracts, which meant his bluff had worked. He'd probably have 3 different legal complaints filed against him by morning, but he'd deal with those later. Right now, he needed to figure out who this girl was, why someone was chasing her, and why every instinct he'd developed in 3 years of galactic law was screaming that he'd just made the most important decision of his life. The private medical suite cost him a fortune, but it was worth it for the discretion. The doctor, a Syntharian whose species had been practicing medicine for 10,000 years, examined the girl with multiple sensory organs while Taemin paced. She's Etherian, the doctor confirmed. Haven't seen one in decades. They're rare. Almost gone, actually. Their civilization collapsed about a century ago. Messy business. Political intrigue, assassinations, the whole tragic story. Is she going to be okay? Physically? Yes, her injuries are superficial. Whatever she sealed them with before you found her probably saved her life. Emotionally? The doctor's communication tentacles shrugged. She's terrified. Her stress hormones are off the charts. She's running from something. Can you tell me anything else about her? Without her permission? No. Doctor-patient confidentiality exists across species, counselor. You should know that. The doctor's tone was gently mocking. Taemin nodded. When will she wake up? Already am, came a voice from the bed. The girl was sitting up, looking more alert. The medical treatment had worked quickly. Her luminescent skin was brighter now, healthier. She studied Taemin with those impossibly dark eyes. You're the one who carried me. The negotiator. Taemin Lee, attorney at law. Welcome to Meridian Station. He kept his distance, trying to appear non-threatening. You said people were chasing you. Do you want to tell me about it? She hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. My name is Lyra. That's not my real name, but it's what I've been using. My real name would tell you who I am, and that would be dangerous. For both of us, dangerous how? I'm the last living heir to the Etherian throne. She said it flatly, without drama, like she was reporting the weather. My family was murdered 50 years ago. I've been hidden since I was a child, moved from safe house to safe house, guardian to guardian. A week ago, my most recent protector was killed. They're getting closer. They won't stop until the bloodline is completely erased. Taemin pulled up a chair. This was exactly the kind of complicated, dangerous situation he should run from. Instead, he said, "Who's they?" The consortium. A group of families who seized power after my family fell. They've ruled Etherian space, what's left of it, for half a century. But my very existence threatens their legitimacy. As long as I live, there's someone with a better claim to lead our people. Why not just give up the claim? Go somewhere far away and live in peace? Lyra's laugh was bitter, because it doesn't work that way. I've tried. They don't want me to renounce my claim. They want me dead. A renunciation could always be taken back. Death is permanent. She looked at him directly. You should walk away now. Forget you met me. They'll kill anyone who helps me. Taemin considered it for exactly 3 seconds. I'm going to need you to sign a formal retention agreement. Standard fees apply, plus hazard pay. I'll draw up the paperwork. You're insane. I'm a lawyer. Sometimes there's not much difference. He smiled, and for the first time since waking up, Lyra smiled back. It transformed her face, made her look younger and older at the same time, vulnerable and impossibly brave. Why? She asked. Why help me? You don't know me. Taemin thought about it. The real answer was complicated, a mix of instinct, attraction to a puzzle, maybe even attraction to her, though he barely knew her. Instead, he said, because everyone deserves representation. That's what I do. I stand between people and the things that would destroy them, and I negotiate a better outcome. Consider yourself represented. The doctor made a disapproving noise, but said nothing. Lyra stared at Taemin like he was the strangest thing she'd ever encountered, which, given she'd probably met hundreds of alien species, was saying something. You're serious. Always am when it comes to contracts. He pulled out his datapad. Now, let's start with the basics. Who exactly is trying to kill you? What resources do they have? And what are options for keeping you alive long enough to find a permanent solution? They talked for hours. Lyra explained the political situation in ether and space, the factions, the players, the decades of intrigue. Taemin took notes, asked questions, and slowly built a picture of the situation. It was bad. The consortium had resources, connections, and most importantly, they had legitimacy in the eyes of the broader galaxy. Lyra was just a fugitive, a ghost of a dead civilization. No one would protect her against a recognized government. Unless, Taemin said slowly, we changed the game. What do you mean? The consortium's power comes from being the recognized government of ether and space. But recognition is just a legal construct. It can be challenged. Lyra shook her head. I tried that. Hired attorneys years ago. They all said the same thing. I don't have standing to challenge the consortium because I can't prove my identity without exposing myself to assassination. Did any of those attorneys work for human firms? No. Why? Taemin grinned. Because we play the game differently. Earth's legal tradition doesn't care much about traditional power structures. We care about contracts, precedent, and finding loopholes. Give me a week. I'll find an angle. A week? The consortium probably knows I'm here already. Their agents could arrive any moment. Then we don't stay here. Taemin stood. I know a place. An old human facility on the edge of Federation space. No one goes there anymore. We'll be safe while I work. Lyra looked uncertain. You're asking me to trust you completely. I don't even know you. True, but I did carry you out of an exploding ship, which has to count for something. He offered his hand, human style. Come with me. Let me help you. Worst case scenario, I fail, and you're no worse off than you are now. Best case, we find a way to end this that doesn't involve you dying. She stared at his hand for a long moment, then reached out and took it. Her fingers were cool, her grip gentle. Okay, she said. I'll trust you. But if we die, I reserve the right to say, I told you so, as a ghost. Fair enough. They left Meridian Station on a chartered transport, Taemin using every trick he'd learned to hide their trail. He routed their travel through 6 different transfers, used false credentials, and paid for everything with untraceable credit chips. By the time they reached the facility, an abandoned human research outpost orbiting a dead world, he was reasonably confident they hadn't been followed. The outpost was grim. Clearly, no one had been there in years. Dust covered everything, and half the systems were offline. But it had air, water, and power, which was enough. Taemin set up his workspace in what had once been the command center while Lyra explored. The living quarters? This place is depressing. She said when she returned, it's temporary. Everything's been temporary for my whole life. There was an edge to her voice. 50 years of exhaustion, compressed into one sentence. Dashman looked up from his datapad. I'm sorry. That's not fair. No one should have to live like that. Lyra sat down across from him. Tell me about Earth, about your world. I've heard stories, but I want to know what it's really like. So he told her. He talked about Seoul, where he'd grown up, about the towers that reached into the clouds and the old palaces that remembered, when Korea was still just one nation instead of part of a unified Earth government. He told her about his family, his mother who taught literature, and his father who'd been a doctor. About how he'd chosen law because he loved the puzzle of it. The way you could take impossible situations and find solutions through clever thinking and careful words. It sounds beautiful, Lyra said when he finished. Your world, your life, normal, is not perfect. We have problems. But yeah, I guess compared to being hunted for 50 years, it's pretty normal. He paused. What about you? What was your life like before all this? I don't remember it. I was too young when my family died. Everything I know comes from stories my guardians told me. My mother was supposed to be brilliant, a scientist queen who wanted to take Ethiopian society in new directions. My father was a diplomat. They were reformers. That's why they were killed. The old families didn't want change. And you? What do you want? Lyra was quiet for a long time. I want to stop running. I want to wake up without checking for assassins. I want a normal life, whatever that means. She looked at him. Is that selfish? My people need a leader, but I don't want to be that leader. I just want to be me. Whoever that is. It's not selfish. It's human. Well, you know what I mean. She smiled. I do. Then, more softly, thank you for not judging me. We all have the right to choose our own path. That's one thing I believe in absolutely. They fell into a routine over the following days. Taemin worked on the legal problem, while Lyra helped where she could, providing information about Ethiopian culture, history, and law. They shared meals. Taemin had brought enough supplies for both of them, carefully chosen to work with Ethiopian biology, and talked late into the station's artificial night. Slowly, Taemin began to see past the frightened refugee to the person underneath. Lyra was smart, sharper than most attorneys he'd worked with. She had a dry sense of humor that caught him off guard. She was curious about everything, asking him 1,000 questions about human culture, Earth history, the strange way humans approach law and justice. And she was beautiful. Taemin tried not to think about that, tried to keep things professional, but it was impossible to ignore. The way her luminescent skin caught the light, the grace of her movements, the sound of her laugh when he said something unexpectedly funny, it all added up to something he hadn't felt in years. He was attracted to her, genuinely and deeply. And that was a problem because she was his client, and she was in danger, and mixing business with personal feelings was how you got people killed. But Lyra seemed to feel something, too. He caught her watching him when she thought he wasn't looking. She found excuses to be close to him, to touch his arm when making a point, to sit beside him instead of across from him. The tension between them grew each day, unspoken but undeniable. On the 5th day, Taemin made a breakthrough. I've got it, he announced, almost shouting. I know how to do this. Lyra rushed into the command center. How? The consortium's legitimacy is based on a treaty signed 50 years ago, right after your family's fall. The Treaty of Ethiopian Succession. It's recognized by the Galactic Federation as the legal framework for your people's government. Right? So the treaty has a clause buried deep, almost forgotten, that allows for challenges to the succession if new evidence emerges about the legitimacy of the original transfer of power. Taemin pulled up the document on the main display. We don't need to prove you're the rightful heir in court. We just need to prove the consortium obtained power illegally. Can we do that? That's the beautiful part. I don't think we have to. We just have to threaten to. Look, the consortium has been in power for 50 years. They've made deals, signed contracts, established trade agreements. All of that is based on their recognized authority. If we challenge their legitimacy, even if we eventually lose, we throw all of those agreements into question. It would cause chaos. Lyra's eyes widened. So we threaten to sue them. Exactly. We offer them a deal. They leave you alone. We don't challenge their legitimacy. They get to stay in power. You get to live in peace. Everyone wins. Will they go for it? If I present it right, yes. Because the alternative is years of legal battles, frozen assets, suspended trade agreements. Even if they win in the end, the cost would be enormous. Taemin felt the familiar thrill of a good strategy coming together. It's a classic negotiation. We're not threatening to win. We're threatening to make winning too expensive to be worth it. Lyra stared at him, then suddenly laughed, a sound of pure relief. You're brilliant. Insane, but brilliant. I prefer creative legal thinking, he grinned. I'll need to contact the consortium, arrange a negotiation. It'll be dangerous. They might try something violent instead of dealing. Then we prepare for that too. Lyra stepped closer to him. I trust you, Taemin. Completely. You've given me something I haven't had in decades. Hope. They were standing very close now. Taemin could see the faint patterns in her luminescent skin, like constellations. He could hear her breathing. The professional distance he'd been trying to maintain crumbled. Lyra, I need to tell you something. I know, she said softly. I feel it too. This is a terrible idea. You're my client. The situation is dangerous. Getting emotionally involved is... She kissed him. It was gentle at first, tentative, then deeper as he responded. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Lyra smiled. Sometimes the best deals are the ones that don't make logical sense. You're using my own philosophy against me. Is it working? Completely. He kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation. They'd both been alone for so long, carrying such heavy burdens. Finding each other felt like the universe's idea of compensation. Later, lying together in the outpost's small living quarters, Lyra traced patterns on his chest. What happens after? She asked quietly. If this works, if the consortium agrees to leave me alone, what then? What you want to happen? I don't know. I've spent my whole life running. I don't know how to be still. She looked up at him. But I'd like to figure it out. Maybe on Earth? I've never seen a planet's surface. Only stations and ships. Earth would welcome you. We're good at welcoming strangers. It's kind of our thing now. He ran his fingers through her hair, which felt like silk. You could have that normal life you wanted. Could you be part of it? Taemin's heart did something complicated. I'd like that. A lot. But let's solve the immediate problem of keeping you alive first. Romance is great, but it's hard to sustain when one party is dead. She laughed and swatted him. Ever the practical lawyer. Someone has to be. The next day, Taemin sent a carefully worded communication to the consortium's official channels. He identified himself, stated that he represented a party with significant legal claims against their government, and requested a negotiation. He expected a delay, maybe some initial posturing. Instead, the response came within hours. They agreed to meet at a neutral location, Meridian Station. Ironically enough, within 3 days. That was fast, Lyra said, worried. Too fast. They're scared. That's good. Scared people make better deals. But Taemin shared her concern. The consortium's quick acceptance meant they took the threat seriously. It also meant they might be planning something aggressive. They prepared carefully. Taemin drafted 17 versions of the proposed agreement, each with different terms depending on how the negotiation went. He researched the consortium's representatives, built psychological profiles, planned his approach. Lyra helped, providing insights into Aetherian culture and politics that no human database could offer. On the third day, they returned to Meridian Station. Taemin had arranged for additional human security, people he trusted, and made sure the negotiation would take place in a public venue with multiple witnesses. If the consortium tried anything violent, it would be in full view of galactic law enforcement. The negotiation chamber was the same one where this had all started, though it felt like years ago instead of just over a week. The consortium sent 3 representatives, 2 politicians and 1 military officer, all Aetherian, all wearing formal robes that marked their status. They looked at Lyra with obvious recognition and barely concealed hostility. "So," said the lead representative, a male Aetherian whose skin had darkened with age to deep indigo. "The ghost child appears at last. We've been searching for you for a long time." "I'm aware," Lyra said calmly. "That's why we're here." Taemin stepped forward. "Gentlemen, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I think we can find a solution that serves everyone's interests." "The only solution that serves our interests is her death," the military officer said bluntly. "Then you'll be disappointed, because that option is off the table." Taemin activated his datapad, projecting documents into the chamber's holographic display. "What I'm offering instead is mutual recognition of legitimate claims and a non-interference agreement. My client agrees not to challenge your government's legitimacy. You agree to cease all hostile actions against her. Both parties gain security. Both parties avoid costly legal battles." The lead representative studied the documents. "Why should we trust her to keep this agreement?" "Because I'm not offering a personal promise. I'm offering a binding legal contract, registered with the Galactic Federation with enforcement mechanisms. If either party violates the terms, the consequences are automatic and severe." Taemin highlighted specific clauses. "She can't come after you without triggering massive penalties. You can't come after her without the same. It's not trust. It's mutually assured legal destruction." The 3 Aetherians conferred quietly in their own language. Taemin waited patiently. This was the critical moment. If they rejected the offer, he had backup plans, but they were all riskier. Finally, the lead representative spoke. "We need certain assurances. Verification that she truly will not press her claim. That she won't inspire others to challenge us." "Agreed. In exchange, you need to provide the same assurances. No more assassins. No more attempts on her life. And you'll compensate her for the 50 years she spent fleeing your agents." "Compensation?" The military officer bristled. "She's a fugitive. She's the rightful heir to a throne you occupy. Under Aetherian succession law, which you claim to follow, she's owed the income of the royal estates for her entire life. I've calculated the sum. It's substantial." Taemin brought up another document. "Consider it the price of legitimate rule. You pay her what's legally hers. She leaves you alone forever. That's the deal." More conferring. The discussion grew heated, but Taemin could see he'd won. The numbers were large, but not devastating. And more importantly, they solved the consortium's fundamental problem. Lyra alive and claiming the throne was dangerous. Lyra alive, compensated, and legally bound not to challenge them was just an expensive footnote. After 2 hours of negotiation, hammering out details and adding protective clauses, they reached an agreement. The consortium would pay Lyra a substantial settlement, cease all hostile actions, and officially recognize her right to live freely anywhere in the galaxy. In exchange, Lyra would renounce all claims to the Etherian throne and sign a legally binding non-interference agreement. The contracts would be registered with the Galactic Federation, making them enforceable across all member worlds. When the documents were finally signed, the lead consortium representative looked at Taemin with something like respect. "You're a dangerous human, Counselor. I'm glad you're not our enemy." "I'm no one's enemy. I'm just a lawyer." Taemin smiled his professional smile. "Pleasure doing business with you." When the consortium representatives left, Lyra collapsed into a chair, shaking. "Is it really over?" "It's really over. You're free." Taemin sat beside her and took her hand. "The settlement will hit your account within a week. You can go anywhere, do anything. No one will chase you." Tears streamed down Lyra's face, glowing faintly as they caught the light. "I don't know what to do with freedom. I've never had it." "Then we'll figure it out together. If you want." She looked at him, this human who'd risked everything for a stranger, who'd found a solution where no one else could, who'd given her back her life. "I want. Definitely I want." They left Meridian Station that evening on a commercial transport heading to Earth. Taemin had filed the necessary paperwork for Lyra to enter Earth's system as a political refugee granted asylum. It would take time for all the formalities to clear, but the basics were in place. She'd be welcomed on as their ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. Lyra pressed against the viewport, watching the stars stretch into lines. "I've seen this 1,000 times," she said, "but it feels different now. Knowing I'm going somewhere instead of running from something." Taemin stood beside her. "What do you want to do when we get to Earth?" "Besides seeing the surface for the first time, learn everything. I want to understand what it's like to be normal." She smiled at him. "And I want to spend time with you. Lots of time." "Is that too much?" "Not even close." He kissed her gently. "Fair warning, though. Earth's legal system is going to seem very boring after galactic contract law." "I'll survive. Besides, I'm not interested in your work. I'm interested in you." "Well, that's convenient, because I'm very interested in you too." They stood together watching the stars. Two people from impossibly different worlds who'd found something neither expected. A connection that transcended species, culture, and circumstance. Behind them, Meridian Station grew smaller, then vanished. Ahead, somewhere in the depths of space, Earth waited. Home. Safety. A future? Tae-Min? Lyra said quietly, "Yeah? Thank you. For everything. For saving me, fighting for me, believing in me. You don't have to thank me. That's what lawyers do. We stand between people and the things that would destroy them." "No," she said firmly. "That's what you do. There's a difference." She took his hand and squeezed. "You're not just a lawyer. You're a good person. I'm lucky I crashed near you. I'm the lucky one. I gotta meet you." They stayed at the viewport for hours, talking about the future, making plans, dreaming about what their life together might look like. When they finally retired to their cabin, exhausted but happy, Lyra fell asleep in Taemin's arms. Peaceful for the first time in 50 years, Taemin stayed awake a little longer, thinking about the strange path that had led him here. 3 years ago, he'd left Earth as part of humanity's first wave of professionals entering galactic society. He'd thought he was looking for interesting work, challenging cases, maybe a little adventure. He'd never imagined he'd find love with someone from a dying civilization, or that his skills as a negotiator would save a life in such a direct way. But that was the thing about the galaxy, he'd learned. It was vast and strange and full of surprises. Humans had thought they'd shock the stars with their aggressive legal tactics and their love of contracts. Instead, They discovered that the galaxy was full of problems that needed solving, disputes that needed mediating, and people who needed help. Earth's lawyers hadn't conquered the stars. They'd found their purpose among them. And for Taemin, that purpose had led him to Lyra, a woman without a world who'd given him a reason to build a new one. Together, the ship hummed around them, carrying them toward Earth, toward home, toward a future they'd write together. Outside the viewport, the stars shone eternal, witnesses to another unlikely story in a galaxy full of them. A human and an Etherean, a lawyer and a refugee, a negotiation that became something far more valuable than any contract. Love, it turned out, was the one thing that needed no legal framework. It simply was. And that was enough.